Amazon's most popular selling categories are home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, and toys and games. Now, does that mean that you should go ahead and sell a product in one of these categories? Does it mean that you're going to have the highest profit margin? Let's find out. What's going on, guys? Josh with Debt to Dollars here. So today we're going to take a look at the most popular selling categories currently on Amazon, what categories that sellers tend to go to and flock to the most, and then we're going to take a look at which ones actually yield the highest profit margin and which ones are best for the beginner sellers. All of this information is being pulled from Jungle Scout, so this is actual data we're going to be taking a look at, not just my personal opinion. And at the very end, I'm going to give you my recommendation on what I think that most beginner sellers should start in and what categories I believe are best to sell in on Amazon. So let's jump to what are the most popular selling categories currently on Amazon. Okay, so as I mentioned, this information and data is being pulled from Jungle Scout's 2020 State of the Amazon Seller Report. So this should be a true representation on what are the most popular categories and which are the most profitable categories to sell in. So just starting off, I know I mentioned before in the introduction, the top 3 categories based on popularity, so that means the most amount of sellers are participating in, are home and kitchen at 45%, sports and outdoors at 23%, and toys and games at 22%. Now this adds up to 90%, but the catch here for this data set is that this survey allowed sellers to participate in more than one category. So for sellers like myself, I sell in different categories for different products. I don't just solely focus on home and kitchen, I also sell in a couple other different categories. But this shows you that the majority of people and sellers are participating in home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, and toys and games. Now if you think of the reasons why, there's a lot of reasons why you want to focus your attention in these categories. And that's because a lot of these categories, the products that are in those categories are fairly simple, they're intuitive, and they're straightforward. They're also easy to ship, and they tend to be light. And that's kind of what you want to look for, something that's easy to ship from China, from overseas, wherever you're getting your product, and to get it to Amazon FBA and then eventually to your customer. That's really a big thing you want to keep an eye out for. Some other popular selling categories are health, household, and baby care, beauty and personal care, and kitchen and dining. Now let's take a look at the least popular categories, and those tend to be 1, CDs and vinyl at 2%, collectibles and fine art at 2%, and handmade at 2%. So this shows you that really anything that one is obsolete, such as CDs, there isn't a whole lot of demand for CDs anymore, or DVDs. And then looking at the collectibles and fine art, that is something that is very, very difficult to ship, especially fine art that may be fragile. The last thing you want to do is to send a product to a customer, they end up receiving it, and it's broken. Now you're liable for that customer return, and you just lost a big chunk of money for that. And also think about, for fine art and handmade products, there isn't a whole lot of demand. It's a very niche market, so you may sell just a couple per month, and it's going to make it a lot more difficult than to sell in something that a lot of people flock to on Amazon, such as kitchen and dining or home and kitchen. Now that you know the most popular selling categories on Amazon, does that mean that you should go ahead and start selling in these categories? The answer is, it honestly depends on what you're trying to get out of this. And the simple answer, I would say, is don't just go to it because it's the most popular. And here are the problems with selling in a popular category. So let's think about it like this. You're competing with Amazon themselves, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of Amazon products called Amazon Basics. So for the most popular products, such as home and kitchen, Amazon has a lot of Amazon Basic products that you're going to be competing against. And honestly, if I'm a consumer looking for a new kitchen product and I see that there's an Amazon Basic at a good price, I'm going to go ahead and purchase that Amazon Basic product over yours more than likely. Unless yours is an extremely lower price and has great reviews, I'm always going to side with Amazon just based on their credibility. Now, second, the other problem is that in these popular categories, you're going to have a higher cost of advertising. So as you may or may not know, Amazon uses a pay-per-click advertising, so you actually have to go ahead and outbid other sellers in order to have your ad appear in front of a potential customer. So you may pay 50 cents for that ad just to be placed in front of somebody, assuming that they click it. Now, if the market is oversaturated, such as these popular selling categories, then there are going to be more sellers to compete against when you're setting up your bids on advertising. If there's more sellers, there's more competition, and there's going to be higher advertising costs. Lastly, a popular selling category means more competition, as I just said. So you're going to need to fight to land a spot on the landing pages, and it's going to be more difficult to really differentiate your product from the others. So if you're selling a spatula in There's already over 1,000 different spatulas on the market. What is going to make your product stand out from the rest of those? Now, if you sell in a category such as tools and home improvement, which is kind of in the middle of popularity, there may not be as many, so you may have a chance and an opportunity to really differentiate your product from the rest, which will ultimately lead to more sales and more profit for you. Okay, now that we know which ones are the most popular, which ones yield the highest profit margin. So typically, on average, Amazon sellers tend to get between a 17% and a 26% profit margin. Now that means for every $10 product that you sell, you're gonna keep $1.70 to $2.60 on average. That is your profit. So it's not too bad. I try to keep my range between 30 and 40% ideally. If I can hit 40%, that is a good product that I wanna sell. So the top 5 product categories that will yield the highest average profit margin: 1 is handmade products, 2 computers, 3 appliances, 4 musical instruments, and 5 arts, crafts, and sewing. So looking at these categories, they aren't the most popular product categories to sell on Amazon, but they do yield the highest average profit margin. So just look at handmade products, you're gonna yield a 26 average profit margin. Again, that means that for every $10 product that you sell, you're gonna receive $2.60 in total profit, and that's what you can book. Now, looking at the most popular categories that we talked about earlier, you'll tend to notice that they have a smaller profit margin. So for home and kitchen, you're only really gonna average a 19% profit margin. If you go back to the sports and outdoors, you're also gonna get a 19% profit margin, and then kitchen and dining, the same, about a 19% profit margin. So you can kind of see an inverse effect. For the most popular categories, you're gonna have a smaller profit margin, which is to be expected because you're gonna be paying more in advertising, and there's also a lot more saturation in that market. Now, for the less popular items, you have a chance to really stand out from your competitors. You can also price your product a little bit higher because there isn't as much competition. Now, one thing that I want you to keep in mind, and I don't want you to get this confused, is that this profit margin is not revenue. So this list is simply the amount you'll keep per sale, right? As I mentioned, that $2.60 for every $10 product that you sell. Now, you may have a high profit margin with handmade products or the musical instruments. However, you may only sell a couple a month, and this is typically how it is. On the other hand, you may want to sell a product in home and kitchen or sports and outdoors that is a more popular product category, even though it has a lower profit margin. And that's because you might be able to make hundreds of sales or thousands of sales per month depending on the product. Lastly, I want to give you my advice on which product categories are best for beginners and which ones that you should avoid. So looking at the list of the product categories that are best for the Amazon sellers with least experience, for what I call the beginner sellers, that would be handmade products, books, apps and games, home and kitchen, and clothing, shoes, and jewelry. So these are some of the less popular categories to sell in, but the reason why this is very popular for beginner sellers is because it allows you to immediately just enter into the Amazon marketplace. For handmade products, books, and apps and games, there are a lot less requirements to sell those products and also to get those products branded versus selling something that is a computer or a musical instrument or something that could be perishable like food. Those require a lot of requirements, and those sellers tend to have a lot more selling experience on Amazon. Now, for the product categories that require a high level of experience or the most advanced sellers tend to focus their energy on these categories. That would be musical instruments, computers, appliances, automotive parts, and industrial and scientific products. Alright, so if you've been watching my channel for some time now, you know that I personally like to sell in the home and kitchen category, and that's for a couple of reasons. 1, there's low barrier to entry. 2, it's easy to manufacture those products typically. And 3, the products are fairly simple and they're easy to ship. Now, this category unfortunately offers a lower profit margin, so my profit margin usually does not hit that 40%, only on one product that it actually does. But what this category does allow is you to have more demand for your products. So I sell a lot more products in this category, but my profit margin isn't as high. And in the end, it ends up balancing out where it's still profitable and it's a product that I want to sell. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to tune in next week for the video coming up, and go down below and subscribe and like this video if you ended up finding a product category that you want to focus your Amazon selling experience in. All right, I'll catch you all next time.